Welcome back and thank you for staying with KUTV News at 9 p.m. Well, who is a teacher to you and what are the dynamics of teaching as a profession? Earlier on today, I had a sitting with Dr. DR.Kamere from the School of Education where we discussed this particular matter in depth. Take a look. Professor, thank you so much for joining us at this hour.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And now, please help us understand who a teacher is, because given that in the recent past, we understand that teachers were very valuable, or that noble people. When you see a teacher, you could even kneel down. But then today, things I think have changed. Who is a teacher in this society today?
Thank you very much, Lydia, and thank you for hosting me here today to talk about the teacher and the teaching profession. And if I start by addressing your question, who is the teacher? Yes. I will still say that the teacher is that very important person in the society who takes the child from their young age, very young age, and brings them up to a knowledgeable, independent individual with skills, with knowledge, with attitudes that they can use to fend for themselves, to look after themselves in the world. It is true that a while ago in the past, the teacher was revered, so to speak. Yes. That if you saw a teacher, you would go down and kneel. In fact, that reminds me of a story of someone told me when they saw the priest, the mother saw the priest in the olden days, she would run and kneel and, you know, say the sign of, make the sign of the cross. That's the image that they had of the priest. It's the same thing that you had of the teacher, because the teacher was synonymous to the cane. The teacher walked with the cane, used the cane spoke. It's not the teacher who said. It's the cane that commanded respect, that commanded authority, and so on. Yes, also, the teacher did command respect on their own, you know, as an individual, because teachers were highly placed in the society. They were well paid. They had better houses. The first stone houses you see were for teachers. Yeah, they had the best suits. They were the fashion trenders. It's them who brought the latest fashion and so on. And so they were a role model. They were the people who set the trends in the society.
Sorry for taking you back a little bit. You have mentioned something that a teacher was associated with the canes. And now there's a legislation right now that you should not cane a child. What is the effect of this particular rule on our children today?
Actually, I would have come to that later, but let me answer it now that you have asked. The absence of the cane does not make the teacher less effective. Neither does it make the child, some teachers would argue that because there is no cane anymore, it's difficult to discipline the child. But there are other ways of disciplining a child that are more humane, more gentle, and so on.
But then the question is it more effective? Because looking at the developed world, like, a child is being told, go and lock yourself in a room. That is a punishment. Now, if you do that to an African child, you would have made them happier. Do you think it will be effective?
No, you withhold privileges. It's not just lock yourself in the room. You can withhold the privilege. You can, like in most houses, there's a television. You say no TV for so long. No going out for so long, or this or the other. You withhold privileges.
Is it working?
There are things, oh yeah, I think it can work. Although, okay, now you imagine, I just want to put you in my situation where if you are a teacher and you used a cane on a Form 4 student, sometimes they're even bigger than you, they'll beat you, isn't it? They'll beat you up.
Yeah, that situation.
Yeah, but now, you know, today they know their rights, and some of the rights are that you don't beat. So we cannot beat. And I, personally, I support the withdrawal of the cane for this reason. There are teachers who have beaten children to death. And when somebody is beating a child out of anger, sometimes they can really, you know, harm the child.
So it should actually be a corrective measure.
I think you need to correct. And sometimes I believe in walking the child through their mistake, so that they see the mistake, and then after they recognize where they went wrong, then you then show the consequences of it. So it is action with consequence, not the cane. Sometimes the cane would just maybe scare me, then I wouldn't do what I'm supposed to do. But deep down, I haven't learned what the mistake was. Yes. But if you walk me through my mistake, then I will know what the mistake was and how, or, you know, what the consequences of that mistake were.
I hope parents are listening to that.
So I will say, I don't say spare the rod and spoil the child. It is, if you are absent as a parent or as a teacher, then you spoil the child. You should be there to walk that child through the mistake and to correct themselves. Yes, and that to me is the role of the teacher. So going back to where we were, that the teacher was a role model in the society and the fashion trend setter and so on. Today, the teacher's salary is one of the lowest among the professions. Among all professions, the teacher is one of the poorest paid profession. I do know that there was a time that a teacher would even earn more than a member of parliament. Today, if you gave the teacher the money that is paid to all the cabinet secretaries, the PSCs, and so on and so forth, the teacher would be in their place doing their work the way they should. But because the teacher is very poorly paid and the teacher has needs just like any other person, the teacher moves from the classroom straight to their business. And while they are preparing, time they would have used to prepare their teaching, they would spend in the business.
Do you think the payment issue is the reason why you'll find out that when a student maybe gets out of high school and now they're supposed to go to college, then you ask them to go and do education as a course, most of them shy away from it. And yet in the history of teaching, we have great teachers such as Aristotle, the Plato's, and even Jesus himself was a great teacher, but then right now they are running away from teaching as a profession. Could payment be one of the factors that make them shy away from it?
Yes, payment could be one. But also, when I left university, for instance, I left with a posting letter. You're going to this and that place, this school. Yeah, as I left. Today they tarmac, and you'll find that by the time a teacher is employed, yes, and they will have registered with TSC, but it takes them a very long time before they're employed. And even the employment criteria, you know, the length of time you have been out since you finished college gives you a lot of points. So if I have just left, assume that if I left college 10 years ago, then I have 6 points to begin with, and we need only 10 points. I only need 4. I probably will not get them from, we'll get them, from this and that. And I don't have to be a very good speaker. I don't even have to know my work. There's nothing professional being asked. But if I could have left college last year as a very good teacher, very knowledgeable, very energetic, but I can only get 1 point. How do I compete with the person who has 6?
So what do you think the government should do to redeem that particular issue?
What can the government do? I believe that, one, like in every other field, we have produced too many teachers. Every day, look at all the universities, how many people graduate in a university at any one time.
Yes.
And all those people are going to the job market, and there's no job.
Actually, it's in all departments, not only education.
Only in teaching, in all. So, even doctors, by the way, have the same problem today. 3 years ago, a doctor would leave with a posting, but that's not the case now.
Only 3 years ago.
Only 3 years ago. The doctor would leave, but it's not the case anymore. Right now, they have, I do know doctors who left 2-3 years ago and they're still waiting for posting. I think it is mass production. It is overproduction. Maybe overproduction. And then I also feel that there's a freeze on employment, or there's the employment is not really, we're not employing too many, many people. Perhaps because we are not able as a country, or perhaps somewhere, I don't want to say there's been some sort of mismanagement, but there's been poor planning somewhere. There's been some poor planning. But I also would say that we need to start looking at what our needs are as a country. What are our needs as we prepare children, in the career market? Two, we have to move from the area where we are working, or the belief that we study, leave college and seek employment, and move to where we are creating employment. Question is where, how, and we do not have we don't have the machine there. But somehow we need to be the employers rather than
employees.
Thank
you very much. And now on the teaching methodology, do you think we are moving too fast? Because we came from 7-4-2-4 curriculum, we moved to 8-4-4, and then now we are going to CBC. Do you think that speed is too much, or is it just normal?
Okay, it's a nice question. And I think it's a very current question, because you'll hear there's a big debate. There's everyone saying we should not move from the current system. We should go, we should remain where we are, perfect what we have first, and then move to the next. And perhaps this CBC is coming to try and improve the failures of the 844 system. Which system is best? If you ask me, I'll say all of them are good. It depends on how they're implemented. Because when we moved from the first system to 844, the idea of 844 was to make it practical, instill practical skills, so that as you leave one tier of education, you have the skills and the knowledge to even self-employ yourself. But then we put too many things into the curriculum. They need to learn this, they need to learn this. Then we found that the system is overcrowded, overloaded, students are overloaded, and so on. So we brought in now, we started drilling them so that they can cram and pass exams. And in so doing, we became academic. Not only that, we said we'll have workshops and labs and so on in every school, but we didn't have the money. So we said we'll raise through Harambee. Now, who benefited from this Harambee? Those areas that are well-to-do, areas that are with low income, that are of low income, could not raise the money to build the labs or to build the workshops. So that system failed. This one will fail if, again, it's implemented in a similar way, that we say, let's do this, and we do not prepare. It can fail. But it can also be a very good system, because it will develop the skills. So it is coming, the objective behind it is to improve where 844 failed. But I'd say 844 did not fail because it was a poor system. It was because of its implementation and its planning. And that's the only thing that will mess this one if we are not careful.
Right. Now, speaking about implementation, now the CBC is already being implemented, and already we are facing a lot of challenges, because recently parents were saying, yes, the teachers are being paid to do their job. Remember, some parents are even illiterate. They didn't go to school. And this parent is expected to supervise his child's homework. What's your take on that? Do you think that implementation, bit of it, will really succeed in this case?
It's a nice question, good question. That's the same problem we had with 844. For you to sit with your child, to work with them, and any system, the parents need to be involved in the education of their children. But are parents educated? All of them, are they literate? No. When we had adult education, we did try to educate as many adults as possible. But many of the parents today dropped off in standard 8. Yeah. And the literacy levels go down. Once you leave school, even to hold a newspaper to read, no, it's not many people will do that, or even a storybook. And Kenyans are not readers. We don't have that reading culture. Very many of us don't read, and the only reading we ever do is the newspaper. And when there's the TV that we can hear all the news and get everything, then reading, yes. And that's why even our communication skills, our language is not good anymore. We haven't developed our language. We kill all the English tenses and so on that there are. So does the new will the new system improve on reading? We have to see. But all these, the hope is that with the CBC, yes, as they build the literacy skills, as they build the reading and writing skills, people will learn to read more, or will begin to read more than they are reading today. That is the hope.
So someone also is arguing, maybe outside there, that talking about, it's not about reading only, because it's meant to look at talents as much as reading is also concerned. So maybe someone doesn't really want to read, but they're good in particular field, talent-wise. What can you say about it?
And that's where the parent comes in. You asked me if the parent will help with the schoolwork. There's the talent area, there's the skill area. So they'll come in and help. And the teacher also. The teacher will guide in the class. The teacher will guide the student through reading, through learning. So it's not just the parent who is tasked to help the student or the learner. The teacher also is involved. It's a concerted effort. It's like, I keep saying that education is like the three pillar of the three jiko, stone jiko, where you have the parents, they must do something, they must help or play their role, and even if they don't know how, they're not literate, you can sit with the child, you can show the child value in education. Now the child comes home sick to know how was the school day, yes, what was good in what, okay, then it's time to sit and do your homework and so on. Offer them what they need to be comfortable, and show them, I respect schoolwork, I respect school, it is time for school. Let this child now do their part. Then the teacher has also their role to play. Guide the student, guide them well, show them what they need to do, so that by the time they go home to handle their homework or to do their homework, they are already clear as to this is the way, the way I should go. You know, things are easy. You have decoded what would have been abstract for them. Then now, the other stone is the government. What will the government provide? How does it provide? You cannot have children in school and no money has been given for their education. That children are in school, they're learning, but they do not have the materials. Yeah, that children are learning, but the facilities are not there. So the government then plays the other role to make the education system and learning complete.
Wow. There's a point, just as we finalize, there's a point you said about the teacher being undermined, being not paid so well. A teacher is now watching you somewhere outside there, and they're wondering now what's the way forward with our profession. Can you just tell them something as we finalize?
Well,
especially now that you've taught for 31 years, I think so, right?
I've taught, yes. That a teacher does not get fulfillment from the money. If I went and looked at what I got at the end of last month, I would be a very depressed person. What gives me that push, that energy to wake up every day and go and teach is the child, is the learner. That there are times I go to the lecture, theater, I give a lecture, I talk, I engage, and I do not lecture.
Yes.
I often engage my students. I wish you were one of my students, you'd say that that's a fact. I engage them. I'll ask them questions and so on. But at the end of that lecture, a student will clap. Or someone will see me as I walk in the evening and say, that was a beautiful lecture.
And that is a satisfaction.
Yes, or at the end of the course and I'm evaluated, I see a very good evaluation with suggestions for improvement. Or when we give the examination, I see my questions, the questions I taught, because sometimes we team teach, are answered, which means they were well understood.
Yeah.
Or you teach and at the end of your lesson, I mean of the class, not class, but at the end of the year, the student is well placed somewhere, is able to make something of themselves. And later on in life, could be many years later, you meet that student and they tell you, ulikuwa mwalimu wangu.
Yeah.
You know, I want to give you, it's, you know, a small story that I used to teach in Starehe. That was my first posting after finishing Starehe Boys. Yes, Starehe Boys Center. I had done my teaching practice there, so the boys liked me and I was recalled to the school. When I wanted to buy my first car, I was walking in the streets and I meet a student I had taught in Starehe during my teaching practice, and he told me, oh, I finished school. As I do this and this, I'm doing some business. So what are you doing? Selling this and that. What are you selling? And I told him, okay, I wish you were selling cars because I'm looking for a car. And he wanted to know, madam, give me the specs of your car. Wow. And I did. And 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the line, I had the car I wanted. I had it in very good, with at a very good price, and even lower in terms of age than the one I had thought I would get. I have gone to places and doors have been opened because of students I have taught. That is the satisfaction you get.
Great.
That today I walk and people say, mwalimu wangu, my teacher, and can remember even things that I taught them. That is my satisfaction, that I changed somebody's life, that I made an impact in someone's life.